Rockstar gang, what up? What up? We're just gonna start it off tonight. No intro needed. Running a little bit late, so I was like, you know what? We'll skip the intro tonight. Let's get right into this. Okay. Carolina Panthers trade rumors. There is a lot. There is a lot to talk about when it comes to these Carolina Panthers and the trade rumors surrounding this team. All right. So I skipped the intro tonight. I just got done over there at the NFC South roundtable we did our live stream. If you haven't checked it out yet, go check it out. Talked about a bunch of the offseason moves, stuff we've talked about over here, but also then we did a pre-record, which is going to be coming out probably on Thursday, talking about our Super Bowl recaps and our thoughts. So go check it out on the NFC South roundtable. Appreciate everyone joining the live stream. Do me a favor. Again, make sure you do these three things right here. That's all I ask. Just make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, hit that like button, or hit the thumbs up button, like button, whatever. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and click that post notifications bell. I appreciate everyone joining the live stream. Now, there has been a lot of talk about Carolina and being involved in a lot of big name players, right? Myles Garrett's been thrown in that hat. We're going to talk about each and every one of these players that they've been in the conversations with. Okay. Garrett Wilson to sign with the Carolina Panthers. Omar, I actually have some breaking news on that. And it's not good. So we're going to break that down because that might not be the case. Okay. There is some news that broke out about that, and unfortunate. So let's get some vibes going. We got some music in the background playing a little bit. Now, let's get into this. I want to get into a couple of names that are going to be getting thrown around in this, that have been getting thrown around in this conversation of trade talks. And I'm going to pull up, thinking about what I'm going to pull up here. Probably going to pull up, we'll just use like PFF. And we'll start with a couple of guys. All right. Give me 1 second. We'll pull up PFF here. All right. Okay. So we're going to pull up PFF. And we're going to get into, let's start with Trey Hendrickson. Now, here's the thing. Trey Hendrickson has been thrown into this hat, okay? I think Trey Hendrickson's an interesting one. NFL, all right. We do need a pass rush, right? We do need a pass rush. Absolutely need it badly. I mean, the guy led the league in sacks this year. We know our pass rush is an absolute embarrassment, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so when we're talking about trade rumors, Trey Hendrickson has been one of the names in that. Okay, he has been one of the names tossed around in this situation, and Bryce Young might as well start prepping for another year. To develop, but we need to get him a defense. We need to get Bryce Young a defense, right? We all know that. Right? There's an all-pro defender on the market. Trey Hendrickson could flip the script. Bad news, actually pulling off a trade for him is going to be a whole different level, right? Now, there is some contract drama that when it comes to getting a guy like Trey Hendrickson, okay? He popped up on the Pat McAfee show during the Super Bowl week, right? Was asked about his contract situation, and the guy didn't dance around. He said a lot of things, right? Either the Bengals are going to pay him, pay up, or he's out. And that's basically what he said. All right. And he wants to stay in Cincinnati. He did make that known. He's not about but he's just not about to take a discount just to keep the front office happy. Does this sound familiar, though? Like, this sounds like the Brian Burns situation all over again, man. Like, that's what this sounds like. Okay. When you talk about the Trey Hendrickson situation, that's what it reminds me of. Okay, so I think either the Bengals are going to get their checkbooks out, or they're going to ship him off to the highest bidder at the end of the day. Okay, I think Trey Hendrickson would definitely benefit this team for sure. We need a scrap. I mean, again, I'm a big believer that Carolina and this front office have to be aggressive. You got to make moves, and trades is part of those moves, not just free agency in the draft. Like, trades can be aggressive. You can be aggressive. Again, I want them to be smart though. You can be aggressive, but be aggressively smart. That's the best way I can say it. Like, our pass rush has been softer than baby shit. We all know that. And over the past 2 seasons, we've managed 59 sacks combined. Trey Hendrickson alone has racked up 57 sacks since he joined the Bengals back in 2021. So if you're wondering why Carolina's defense looked like a turnstile last season, look no further. Jadeveon Clowney, again, I think he's solid, but again, he's on the back end of his career. Shaq Thompson is still contract limbo, obviously coming off an injury. The team has done nothing next to really help Derek Brown up front. So it's no wonder, these opposing offenses are having field days with us, ladies and gentlemen. Like, if Carolina is serious about fixing this mess, I think Hendrickson needs to be one of the, could be a guy that maybe we look to make a trade for. Now, there is always a catch when it comes to these trades, ladies and gentlemen. And every trade we talk about, there's always a catch, right? I think this is one that we could be all over. There is a question. Can they pull it off? Like, Hendrickson, again, is under contract through 2025 for Cincinnati after signing a 1-year, $21 million contract extension last year. He's not going to come cheap after he just led the league in sacks. The Bengals aren't just going to hand over an elite pass rusher without getting, obviously, something in return. We all know that. So we'll likely need to cough up multiple draft picks to get in the conversation. And now, given the fact that we spent the last 2 off seasons desperately rebuilding this offense around Bryce Young, do they have the assets to make this kind of aggressive move? Now, the bottom line here is you make this type of trade. We know that this defense needs a serious overhaul. We need a proven game record. Hendrickson could be that guy, right? You put him alongside Derek Brown. You could give Carolina a defensive front that isn't a total liability, right? Will they make that move or keep, or will they just stay put, keep the draft capital they got, keep the cap space where they got? That's obviously something that we'll have to talk about going forward. We know what this front office needs to do. It's crystal clear what this front office needs to do. They need to be aggressive, but again, aggressively smart, right? And for me, again, I think it's an interesting idea going after a Trey Hendrickson. I just don't know if Carolina's has the tools to do that, right? What's up, Raw Walk? Appreciate you, man. Omar Ishmael, TJ Watt. TJ Watt's never leaving here, or never leaving Pittsburgh. So, nice try, though. Nice try. Antonio, what's good, man? Appreciate you joining. Marcus Cash, what's good? Appreciate you joining. Raw Walk, what's good? Appreciate you joining. Appreciate everyone in here. Appreciate y'all. All right, let's go into some other trades. All right, let's talk about this Garrett Wilson trade. I want to go ahead and get this out the way. Any of you guys that think that Garrett Wilson, is going to come, that we're going to trade for Garrett Wilson, you can go ahead and get those rumors out the damn door. Okay? You can go ahead and get those rumors out the damn door. Here's the reason why I say that. Okay? There is a reason behind why I say that. Okay? There has been some rumors that just came out that with the fact that they're moving on from Aaron Rodgers, that Garrett Wilson now may want to stay due to the fact that they're going into a different direction, right? I think it's officially dead that this pipe dream of us going after him is over. It's officially dead. Number one, yes, it's obvious that we want to get Bryce a true number one wide receiver to develop. But we don't have the cash to go on a spending spree for a guy like a Garrett Wilson, nor do we have the draft capital or trade capital to pull off a blockbuster deal. Okay, I never felt that we had that. I would love this. Don't get me wrong, but we have to look at this at a market standpoint and at a realistic standpoint. Okay, there's obviously going to be potential opportunities, right? But here's the thing. Now with the fact that Carolina, we should have false hope for all of this, because there has been reports now that if Rodgers was going to stay, that Garrett Wilson might want out. And that would have made things pretty interesting then. And I would say maybe this is still a dream, right? This is something that could possibly still happen. But the Jets have moved on from Aaron Rodgers. They flew Aaron Rodgers out of there, okay? And so what that means is if Rodgers was a problem and Rodgers is gone, Wilson has no reason to demand a trade now, because he's under contract with them through 2026. And the Jets are not in the business of handing away their best offensive weapon for no reason. They'd have to be absolutely brain dead to trade a 24-year-old wide receiver with elite talent. Okay, so they're not going to trade him. Let's just be real with ourselves. All right, the odds of actually pulling off a Wilson trade were under our microscope even before the Aaron Rodgers news came out. So let's make that clear. Like, the Jets have zero incentive to trade a guy like Garrett Wilson. Even if they did, Wilson would likely force his way to an actual contender, not a team who's still in a rebuild mode. That it was always a pipe dream, and that pipe dream, again, for all you guys out there that think that this is something that still can happen, just go ahead and be officially crushed, because yes, we still need a top tier wide receiver, and I think we're going to get creative with it. I think we're going to be aggressive to still do that this all season. But T. Higgins is a name that's been thrown around, and I think for our financial situation, makes overpaying him, paying for him unlikely, right? Then our draft offers some intriguing options. You can roll the dice on a rookie. That's always a gamble. Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel have given the green light to seek trade, so there's some hope there, right? But those deals won't be cheap. None of these wide receivers are going to be cheap, ladies and gentlemen. Let's make that perfectly clear. So Dan Morgan and this front office have a long offseason ahead, and they've made noticeable strides late in the year. They need to do it right by giving Bryce Young an actual true number one, I think. Yes, the Wilson trade would have been a dream scenario. But, again, we all need to face reality. This was never going to happen. So we need to go ahead, get back to the drawing board, and think about other ways we can do this, right? All right. Us getting Trey be nice for sure. A-Rod won't be going back to New York, so Wilson will stay in New York. Right. I heard today that the Panthers would love for Will Johnson to fall at 8. Have you heard that? Anything on that? Yes, I have. So there has been some rumors that Will Johnson is one of the top prospects for Carolina. You know, again, it is a possibility. Again, I'm not going to make any cases as to who we're going to go with. I think that if Carolina's smart, I think they re-sign. I think they bring back Mike Jackson, and then you go and get somebody in the later rounds, and then but you really need to rebuild this defensive line. We know that is the biggest issue. I've always been a big believer that an elite pass rush and an elite defensive line can make an average corner room look elite. So, and again, the Eagles just won a Super Bowl with Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, 2 rookies, in the corner room. Okay. Yes, and they had Darius Slay as well. Okay, so again, I think you might be able to find a corner or maybe a sleeper in the draft, but I think you bringing in back Mike Jackson is more feasible. That's just me. That's just my opinion. I'm a big believer in building up the trenches because that Eagles defense is a proven reason why you build up with the trenches on both sides of the ball. All right. Yeah, I don't think so either. T. Higgins, again, that's a possibility. That is a true possibility, Omar. I think that's a true possibility more than anything else. Yeah, exactly. I was thinking re-sign Mike Jack as well. Kobe Bryant later rounds. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys in the later rounds. Rob Walk, you could even look at, right? There's a lot of guys you could look at in the later rounds to get a decent corner. Okay. Again, this is about Carolina building up that trenches, building up that edge room, and I even think the linebacker room. I think your top 3 picks need to be edge, defensive tackle, linebacker. I don't care what order it's in. We have to look at the draft and free agency and really build up this defensive line. I think getting Bryce Young, yes, a true number 1 wide receiver is just as important. I think but getting a guy like Garrett Wilson is an absolute pipe dream. And it got crushed when Aaron Rodgers got kicked to the curb. Okay. So anybody's dreams out there to get Garrett Wilson and this being something that's going to happen, just go ahead. I hate to be a bear, bad news, but sorry to crush your dream. What's up, Dougie Fresh? Appreciate you joining, man. What's up, Doug's in the chat? All right, so we talked about Trey Hendrickson. So again, another one. I saw an interesting blockbuster trade for this guy. I saw an interesting trade rumor about this guy that went around. Now, there's a lot of, again, these are all rumors that have been told about. But getting a guy like George Pickens is an interesting one that I saw. I also saw one out there for Alex Pierce from Indianapolis Colts. But getting a guy like George Pickens is it's an interesting one. But again, I think this is another pipe dream, right? I'd like, if you're going to try to trade to George Pickens, you're going to end up trading. We would probably end up trading our second and fourth. You probably end up trading like a second and a fourth or a third and a fifth just to get George Pickens, right? And then all we probably get back is George Pickens and probably like a 6th round pick or a 5th round pick at best, right? I mean, listen, something like that. It looks solid on paper, but given the fact that Pickens is an athletic freak with a highlight full of reels, circus catches, his stats since entering the league in 2022 are impressive. He's had 8 100-yard games, 12 touchdowns, an average of over 900 yards per season. But when he's locked in, he's a nightmare for sure for defenses. But when he's not, let's just say Pickens treats DBs like Mortal Kombat practice dummies. Like, he has this habit of just ended up disappearing in games entirely. Like, a fair comparison, I think DK Metcalf, if Metcalf was a little smaller and a little less polished and maybe a little bit more volatile, Pickens has the talent to be a game changer. But again, you got to temper your expectations with a guy like George Pickens. Like, his inconsistency is what makes him a gamble. So, I would not try to go after George Pickens. These trade rumors for a guy like that, it makes no sense to me that what we're seeing out there, but again, these are all rumors, ladies and gentlemen. These are all rumors. Okay. Stephon Diggs signed with the Carolina Panthers. So another Omar, you want another drama queen in the locker room? I just don't know if I do. Now, another one that's pretty interesting. This guy's been a bust since he got to, even when he got to the Eagles. I mean, we're talking about another edge rusher that only had like 2.5 sacks and 7 solo tackles. Like, this guy is an absolute bust. I've seen rumors to go after a guy like this, but this is an overpriced bust. That's what Bryce Huff is. He was flat out terrible. And I've heard that the Eagles might be interested in trading him. Okay. I mean, the Eagles shelled out serious money for Huff, and then he repaid them with 2.5 sacks. That's absolutely atrocious. It's outright robbery. I mean, injuries may have played a role in that, but let's not sugarcoat this, man. When he's on the field, he's just simply not good enough. I don't think so. Like, the warning signs were all there. It was written on the wall when he had that one standout season with the Jets in a contract year. He playing just 42% of the snaps. That's a massive red flag for a guy you're expecting to just end up anchoring your pass rush. Now, here's the thing. He is only 26 years old. And his market is set around $16.8 million in 2025 and then $17.1 million in 2026. That is an absurd price tag for a guy who didn't show up when it mattered. I understand we're already struggling in cap space. We have zero business taking any kind of chance on a financial deadweight, because that's what this guy would be. So I think if the Eagles cut him loose, sure, I'd be willing to kick the tires down the road, see if we can get him for a cheap prove-it deal. But trade for him makes no sense to me. It would be stupid. And you would just be self-inflicting wounds to a deal that they don't need to be adding another overpaid bust to the list, right? Makes no sense. Makes no sense. That's right, Marcos. 53 people watching, only 26 likes. Y'all already know what to do. Not us talking rumors, right? Yeah. Just talking some rumors, man. Just talking rumors. Now, another one, of course, I think probably this one is probably a fan favorite, just like the Garrett Wilson one. Oop. I think this might be a fan favorite. Myles Garrett. Just like the Garrett Wilson one. Again, I think this is another pipe dream. Again, we know that we've heard the rumors that this is a guy that we could be going afterwards. You know, here's the thing. You're talking about you have to be realistic when we talk about these trade rumors, right? Obviously, this guy's had enough in Cleveland. He's a superstar pass rusher, right? One of the best in business. He wants out. All right. It's time for teams to start thinking about what it would take to get him. So if the Carolina Panthers were realistically offered to get this guy, you're looking at a dumpster fire for a good chunk of the 2024 season, right? You know, they finally started to show some promise, but we've got some cap space at 22.7 to be exact, and the 8th overall pick in 2024. So for the first time in what feels like forever, we do have some flexibility, and chances are to make some real moves in this offseason. But the question is, what do they need more? Again, we talk about another playmaker to help out Bryce Young, or do they just focus on overhauling this defense, right? That was barely managed last offseason. So again, we know that the defense is priority number one. And the Panthers finished dead last in sacks. Well, I think 30th in sacks, but dead last in run defense. All right. So obviously, without doubt, this is the weak link of our team. Okay. Myles Garrett for sure could fix it, but not all of it. Right. Now you're talking about getting a guy for Garrett, trying to get Myles Garrett here. Again, you're talking about getting a 4-time All-Pro who's been terrorizing quarterbacks for years, right? You're not you can't just expect to give the Browns a bag of chips and a cold drink and say, yeah, here you go. It's going to take a serious package to lean this guy away from them, right? Right? We're not talking about some rookie linebacker and a 3rd round pick, right? We're talking about 2 first round picks, right? Because, like, if you think about it this way, to land him, the Panthers would probably have to offer up that 8th overall pick this year, the 2026 first round pick, our 3rd round pick in 2025, and possibly a 2nd round in 2026. That's a lot of future capital for one player. Now, don't get it twisted. I do think Myles Garrett is an elite talent. He's exactly what the Panthers need to take their defense to the next level. But let's be honest with ourselves, man. We need a massive haul of picks to trade away for a guy. Which is awesome, but you can't guarantee you a Super Bowl ring in the immediate future. If you're Carolina, you're gonna have to swallow that pill and move on and say, you know what, Myles Garrett doesn't make sense, because it doesn't. Right? It doesn't. In the long term, it doesn't make sense. Like, again, you look at the Eagles. When we talk about the Eagles and you look at their defense, it makes a lot of sense to bring in a lot of depth. We have to bring in a lot more depth. That's the reason why the Eagles won the Super Bowl. They have so much depth on that D line. Right? They got so much depth on that D line. They didn't even have to run blitz packages to get through that offensive line of the Kansas City Chiefs to get those 6 sacks on Patrick Mahomes, because they had so much depth. That's including drafting Georgia players. Like, look how many Georgia players they drafted. They got Jordan Davis. They got Carter. They got who else did they get? Walker, I think. But you also got to think about Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham. You got Zach Bond, right, in that linebacker room. You also got Quinyon Mitchell, again, Cooper DeJean. They got Gardner Johnson, Darius Slay. That is a depth chart, man. That's a lot of depth. So again, as much as I love the Myles Garrett trade rumor, as much as I would love to, I think it's a crapshoot for a guy like Myles Garrett. You're better off keeping your draft picks and your money in your pocket from a long-term standpoint. From a long-term standpoint. Now, another one that has been thrown around as well, which I'm not opposed to. I don't even know if I spelled his last name right. No, it's there's no A in between there. DK Metcalf. Again, if you want to get a wide receiver for Bryce Young, I think DK Metcalf and having that continuity with Dave Canales, I think it's between him and T. Higgins, but I might even lean the edge on DK Metcalf just due to the fact that he has that continuity with Dave Canales. This guy's an absolute freaking nature, man. Right? He entered the league in 2019. He's got 3,000-yard seasons. Straight up nightmare for defenses. This is a weapon for Bryce Young that I think that would work very well. He's probably the best target that Bryce Young ever have in his entire career so far. Now, I'm not talking about the other guys at wide receiver in Alabama, but we're talking about in the NFL for sure. Right? Now, again, this is also another thing. Again, DK Metcalf ain't going to come cheap, ladies and gentlemen. The Seahawks may have missed the playoffs, but they went 10-7. So they've got reasons to try to keep that window open for next season, keep this guy around. They said they're always there's still a ways away from Super Bowl contention. So they might decide to pull the trigger and rebuild and get some draft capital in return for Metcalf. Again, I think if Carolina wants them, they're going to have to fork some serious draft picks, again, to get a guy like DK Metcalf. When you think about how much potential Bryce Young flashed in the second half of the 2024 season, it'd be worth, sometimes I would think it'd be worth every pick, but again, it might not. Like, I mean, could you imagine, though, DK Metcalf alongside Leggett, Coker, and then Adam Thielen coming back this season, right? Unless they decide to ship Coker off in that potential Metcalf deal. But again, if they don't do that, then DK Metcalf, Leggett, that would be a serious, intriguing trio. And I would be excited as a Panthers fan to get him like that, or T. Higgins, right, for example. But both of those guys, man, DK and T. Higgins are both going to come. There's always a catch, and it's always going to be money. And T. Higgins wants money. We know that. That's the reason why that Cincinnati hasn't re-signed him. So we could talk about T. Higgins all we want. Right? It's just going to come, again, there's always a catch when it comes to every wide receiver or any player we're going to be talking about tonight. There's going to be a catch. There you go, Doug. Oh, Doug likes the DK Metcalf move. I see you, big dog. Yee. Real quick, Clay. You like Boogie? Like Boogie with a hoodie? Boogie Basham? Is that who you talking about? Like, who are you talking about? Boogie Cousins? Boogie Cousins was a dog when he came in the NBA. I miss those NBA days. I think DK is the most realistic to me. I think T. Higgins or Metcalf are the most realistic. If we're looking at wide receiver wise, I think they're the most realistic. Now, there have been some other names out there like Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs, again, Chris Godwin. All those guys are also realistic. But if we really want to get that true number one, because Mark Cooper's 30 years old. I think Chris Godwin's 29, 30 on that edge. You got, again, Stephon Diggs. I think he's up in age as well. So, I don't know how much longer. Keenan Allen signed Carolina Panthers. Now, Keenan Allen's going to probably re-sign with it. I think Keenan Allen's going to go back to LA. I think he's going to go back to the Chargers. I would be happy with DK. I think a lot of us would. Seattle might not get too much. He costs a fortune. He does cost a fortune. Basham. I don't know much about Boogie Basham, honestly, Mad Chatter. I'd have to look into him more, but he could end up being a solid linebacker. Apparently, he did pretty well for the Buffalo Bills. I just don't know if he's a starter. I just don't know if he's a starter level. Again, another bit ridiculous trade because I've heard rumors about this guy getting out of where he's at. Micah Parsons. I've heard a lot about how this guy wants to get out of Dallas. Right? We've heard a lot that he wants to get out of Dallas. Now, the Cowboys would have to actually want to trade Parsons. Parsons wants out. And I know that sounds crazy, but there is obviously a glimmer of logic here. Like Micah, again, is a 26-year-old monster, man. He has 1 year left on his deal. And to put it bluntly, the Cowboys are in a cap mess. They have to pay, I'm pretty sure they have to pay Dak Prescott this year $84 million. If I'm not mistaken. Someone looked that up for me, but I saw something on Twitter, if I'm not mistaken, that says they take an $84 million cap hit because of Dak's contract. Now, signing Parsons to a massive long-term deal might be too much of a financial burden for them to stomach there in Cowboys land. Now, remember, they just parted ways with Mike McCarthy, and again, Parsons wasn't exactly thrilled about that. So if he's not feeling the direction of the franchise, especially with this team's financial struggles, it might be more open to change of scenery. And he obviously is. So, I mean, a trade could be the only way Dallas gets anything back for him and before he bolts next offseason. So, yeah, Micah Parsons' trade to the Panthers isn't the most unrealistic thing ever. But again, it would come with a lot of capital. And it's far from a sure thing. It's far from a sure thing. Again, I don't think these trade rumors, a lot of these really don't make a lot of sense, to be honest. Can we get out of Shaq? I don't know yet. I don't know what they're going to do with Shaq Thompson yet. But again, I think Dallas would need to get something. They would definitely need to get something in return. And again, if we could get Brant Tillis to pull off some wizardry, again, some of these trades could happen, but I doubt it. I doubt it. Another one. Cooper Kupp. His name's been thrown around in this trade rumor, a bunch of trade rumors for the Carolina Panthers. Listen, I think here's the thing. Cooper Kupp makes sense to go get. His age is an issue. His injuries are an issue. But what doesn't make sense is that is he a long-term answer? No. Cooper Kupp to me would end up being what we did with Adam Thielen. We would just sign him for the time being. Now, can Cooper Kupp's body holds up like an Adam Thielen? That's a question for another day, right? Like the Rams sound like that they would be willing to pay part of it, most of his contract, even then, right? I think again, I wouldn't be opposed to this move, but from a long-term standpoint, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It does not make a lot of sense to me. If the Panthers bring Shaq back, they would be holding the team back. I mean, Brown, you make a good point. I mean, again, also at the same time, what other linebackers do you have, though? I think it all depends on how this free agency goes and how this free agency goes and what the draft looks like. Long-term player, agree, Clay. Yeah. So, yeah. Especially for Shaq. That's all I'm saying to you, Ham Brown. It depends on how this free agency goes and what moves they make. I think after free agency, we'll know what they're going to do with Shaq. I really do, and possibly even the draft. I'd rather draft Luther Burden than Kupp. I mean, I understand that as well. I'd rather draft a wide receiver as well than grab a guy like Cooper Kupp. All right, another trade rumor that I want to get into. Either we can shoot it down or we can say yes to it. Again, another one. Again, is Deebo Samuel. Now, I talked about this recently in one of my shorts. And here's the thing. I'm not, listen, it's a risk versus reward type of ordeal with Deebo. Okay. But I also could say that we have a Deebo Samuel on our team. I think Xavier Legette's skill set matches up just like Deebo Samuel. I think that Xavier Legette could end up being a Deebo Samuel. So that's one thing that I put in perspective, right? Again, he is a South Carolina native. That makes it fun for fans. It's a homecoming story. I'm a big Deebo Samuel fan as a Gamecock fan. But again, the guy's injuries is an issue. Again, like if we trade for Deebo Samuel, you're either gonna get the Deebo Samuel, the playmaker that we saw in San Francisco for years, or you're going to get the bust Deebo Samuel. It's a gamble. It's a gamble, right? Again, he's 29 years old. I don't think he's washed, but he's no longer that game breaker either. Like he could bring some much needed leadership, I think, right? He's got a veteran presence that to, I think, a Carolina team that is still building its identity. And maybe a fresh start for him will reignite his fire, especially like a homecoming. But again, you can't get your hopes up on that. Like, again, if you trade for a guy like that, again, it's a risk or reward type of ordeal. It's a bold. I think it would be a bold move for them to go after a guy like Deebo. Again, like I said, it's a risk versus reward here. It could pay off, or then it could end up just being a huge waste of time. Right? I think, again, I want to be aggressive, like I said this all season, but I don't want to be overly aggressive. I don't want to be aggressive where I'm panicking, or aggressive where it doesn't make sense, or I don't want to be aggressive. I don't want to be overly aggressive, I guess you could say, right? Like I said, I want to be smart when it comes to being aggressive, whether it's trades, whether it's free agency, whether it's a draft, right? Just because it feels like a good idea doesn't mean it is one, right? So again, I think if any move we make, no matter if it's a trade, free agency, or the draft, like if we're going to make any moves, they better damn well make sure it's a smart one. It's a smart one. Well, Brown, that he's young. That doesn't mean he can't develop, my friend. T. Higgins is a better option than Deebo for sure. Again, XL didn't show up. Yeah, that's true. Also, apparently he had a hand injury. He was playing with basically a broken hand all year. Whether that's the case or not, that doesn't mean that XL can't develop into what we drafted him to be. Right? And him already having continuity with Bryce is something else that you have to put in perspective. So, again, he might not be ready now, but that doesn't mean down the line he won't be. Who knows, Hen? He might show out next year. Yeah, I'm thinking mid-20s, younger at the wide receiver they bring in or draft. Yeah. No, for sure. You want to keep it young. You want to keep this developing in the right direction. Yeah, and some continuity would be huge as well. All right, let's get into another one. This one's interesting. This one was very interesting to me. More. All right, let's look at the season stats. So another one is Davante Adams. The reason why, and I'm going to give you a reason why Davante Adams. Okay, and I actually would think we have a better chance of getting Davante Adams than a Garrett Wilson. Again, Aaron Rodgers is done. Now Davante Adams might try to follow, right? But I think this could actually happen. And here's why. Okay. Now, we don't have much wiggle room in salary cap right now, but that doesn't mean that we can't shuffle a few things around. Now, again, even if they don't free up much cash, there's one serious option. I think Davante Adams is one. Now, the Jets have most certainly moved on from Aaron Rodgers. Again, we know that. Okay. Right. Now, Adams, being the professional he is, he's caught in the crossfires of that. Now, the Jets are either going to cut him or they're going to try to trade him. And if that happens, good luck to the Jets. This is where maybe we could come in. Now, the Jets cut Adams. Let's be honest. That's the best case scenario for us. Then suddenly we have a chance to sign him to like a 1-year deal. 1 year. And that's all it takes to inject some talent into a roster of Adam Thielen, Jalen Coker, Xavier Legette, Davante Adams. And holy shit, that's a wide receiver group that actually makes sense. Like Adams went to now. Well, the question is, because let's hold up for a second. Will Davante Adams, is this a guy that will want to play in Carolina? This is where things get interesting because we aren't exactly a Super Bowl contender, right? We're building something here. But in fact, we're not even guaranteed to win the NFC South next season, right? So sure, there's a chance, but it's not guaranteed, right? Adams at 32 years old isn't exactly in business of rebuilding teams. He wants to win. He's already shown that how he's fed up. How fed up he can get with losing. Case in point, the guy requested a trade from the Raiders in October because he couldn't stomach losing anymore. He's not here for moral victories, ladies and gentlemen. Let's say that. All right. Okay. Oh my gosh. Hold on one second, chat. Hold on one second. All right. Back at it. Sorry, I had to take some layers off. I am burning up in my house. Now, another thing is again, I'm not going to ignore the fact that Davante Adams is a guy that we could probably get. Again, we have a shot. It's a slim one. Again, a lot of these are, listen, we have a shot at all of these. But again, they're all slim chances, right? They could like, we could be on the up and up, and that's all there are potential, right? But someone like Adams, that might not be enough, but hey, stars align. I just pull one hell of a move off. Okay. All right. Now, another one that's recently came into my eye is actually a running back, Najee Harris, to say the least. Again, I don't think this is a far-fetched. I don't think this is a far-fetched move. Okay. I think that we desperately need a legitimate running back number 2. We don't know what's going to happen with Jonathan Brooks coming back off that ACL. Miles Sanders is definitely going out the door. Like, it's clear as day that we don't have one on the roster. Like, they could keep Sanders for one more season, but that feels like a waste of time and cap space. Like, I think the smarter play is to go into free agency or in the draft for sure. Okay. I'm not necessarily saying that we should just try to get Najee Harris and just get a running back in the free agency. But again, it all depends on how this draft works out. But they could go the route of getting a guy like Najee Harris. It does make some damn sense, right? Like a 1-year deal for Harris wouldn't be shocking. It possibly could be practical because here's the catch. It can't be a big money move. So if the Panthers cut Sanders post June 1st, they end up freeing nearly I think $7 million. That means that Harris would need to sign $5 million or less. Like, that means that we would need to just sign him for $5 million or less. That might not sit well with him, but after all, this would be his first shot at a real payday in the NFL. He's not taking a discount just for fun. Like, now, then there's the big question. Is Harris actually worth it? Again, he was a former first-round pick. He's been fine in Pittsburgh, but far from elite. His efficiency has been shaky. His explosiveness has been questionable. His ability to take over games, again, it's been inconsistent at best. Right? Consistent as best. But Carolina isn't looking for a superstar. They need someone who's reliable, who can take pressure off of Hubbard, also give Bryce Young some relief. So I think if Harris is willing to take a reasonable deal and bet on himself, this move could work. Now, if not, again, the Panthers could, we'll look elsewhere. Simple as that. It's very simple in that matter. Okay. It's just very simple in that matter. Now, again, there's a lot of players that Carolina could target that I think that are going to be free agents. Again, we've talked about Josh Sweat. I think some other guys that we've talked about. Again, some other guys that they could trade for. Again, is Grover Stewart. I think is a guy that Carolina could possibly trade for. Again, we're talking about a guy that's getting up in age. This is the guy that we could end up trying to trade for. I think he is 30. Okay, so he's 31 years old. Again, we're talking about a defense. We need a guy who can help on the run defense. This guy earned himself, I think, from a PFF standpoint. Okay, he has an 80 run defense. So he's not exactly young, but this is a guy that we could end up, trading for. You might not have to trade that much to get him at his age. But again, he'd be an upgrade than anything we have on the line besides Derek Brown. Right? I don't think we need some aging, washed up player, but they do need someone who can plug holes, add some rotation, and stop the bleeding on the defense. I think if Stewart is available, I think this is a guy maybe we could pounce on as well. He could be a difference maker they need in the middle of the defense. But again, that 31 years of age is something that I have thought about. Okay. Definitely have thought about. Now, we do have some. Now, again, we've talked about some Eagle players. If we're looking at the Super Bowl and we're looking at players from either one of those teams, Nick Bolton, a linebacker. Nick Bolton, linebacker. Nick Bolton, he's only 24. He's a free agent, right? He's a free agent. So we need a linebacker. We know our linebacker core is a mess. Shaq Thompson's future with this team is hanging by a thread. Obviously, the jury's still out on Josie Jewell, and Trevor Wallace is a rookie, right? Coming into the second year, we need a true game-changing linebacker. I think Bolton fits the bill. He's a physical force, right? Who doesn't back down. He would come with a price tag probably around $12.3 million a season. So if you want to bring stability to your defense, you have to make those types of deals, right? Another linebacker that is going to be, which we've talked about on the show before, but I'll bring him up again, is Zach Bond. Again, this is a guy that is a free agent that we could look at. Okay, this might not be a trade, but again, we're talking about a guy that led second in solo tackles, first in the league in forced fumbles. Again, I think our linebackers are decent. I think Jewell and Wallace are decent, but maybe even with Thompson, we're decent. But again, you get Zach Bond, that is a significant upgrade of what you currently have. And you don't even think about being cheap here. Again, this is another guy that you would have to end up paying like $9.7 million per season to get. Right? Zach Bond, Josh Sweat, let's go. Yes, sir. Love that. Roxanne comes in. Rosanna. Sorry. I might need to get glasses, Rosanna. Appreciate you. Hashtag keep pounding. I appreciate you with that comment. Shout out to everybody in the chat, man. Over 61 people. Again, do me a favor. We're going to go through some more people. Make sure you pound that like button. Hit that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate that. If you enjoy the content, again, make sure you pound that like button. Hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way. All right, if you want to become a member today, the link is right at the top of the chat. We have a link for you to become a member, and we also have a live goal tonight. So make sure y'all help out on that. Rolly comes in and says Turpin is a kick returner, punt returner. Would not be opposed to that. Turpin is a absolute threat. Is an absolute threat. Milton Williams. I think is another guy that we got to look at from a defensive line standpoint, man. I mean, you're talking about a guy 6 sacks for a defensive lineman, had 12 solo tackles, 1 forced fumble. I mean, you're talking about 20. He had about 28 hurries, 40 pressures. I mean, the guy gets in the backfield. He gets in the backfield. Overall grade is great. Pass rushing grade, second among defensive linemen. Run defensive grade is not there. But again, I think it's a guy that definitely could help. I think he's an underrated guy for this Philadelphia Eagles defensive line. He doesn't get the highlights like, Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis do. I think but trust me, I think this guy was a nightmare in that Chiefs Super Bowl, right? He had 2 sacks and 2 fumble recoveries in that. And he was getting constant pressure on Patrick Mahomes, right? I think Williams is a guy who could provide an immediate impact. He's a free agent. His projected contract as of right now is around I think $12 million per season, right? I think that's another one. And then, of course, last but not least is another guy I like as well, Josh Sweat. We talked about him a couple times. I mean, you talk about a guy who was an absolute game record. You could make the case that he was even the Super Bowl MVP. I think he had 2.5 sacks in that game. I mean, he terrorized Patrick Mahomes in that game. And made that Patrick Mahomes' life a living hell. That offensive line had nothing for him. He can rush the passer with ease. He's got the skills, obviously, to be a real threat off the edge. If the Eagles can't find a way to keep him, again, this is a guy that is going to be one of the most sought after players in free agency. He's projected around $18.8 million per season. But I think this is a guy that you would be dumb not to throw your hat in the ring on this. We need pass rushers, and we need them now. And I think this is a guy that we could definitely look into. Again, another guy. Josh Sweat's also he's not that old. He's 27. He's 27. Yeah, what do you know about the kicker they got for a future contract? Well, I know he's got a better kicking statistics than what I'll say is he's got a better kicking statistics than Eddie Pinheiro. I'll say that. That I do know that for sure. His name is Matt Wright. Let me see if I can find some more news about him. Matt Wright. Let's see here. I want to see if I can get any more information on him. Apparently apparently Matt Wright has been here before. After Tuesday, okay, they signed kicker Matt Wright to a reserve future contract. Becomes a month before the starting free agency. Placed when Carolina's primary place kicker set to hit the open market. Okay, sign. So basically, from what I'm reading here, Josh, he signed to 9 different teams in the NFL. Came out of Central Florida. One of those teams when he came out in the NFL was us. We signed him during the summer of the 2023 season when Pinheiro had a groin strain, and now he's returned back. He's a 28-year-old kicker he was there for the San Francisco, then went to Kansas City, then went to Tennessee Titans past season. He successfully booted 15 of his 16 field goals attempts and all 6 of his extra point tries when he's played. So the guy doesn't miss very often. 100% on his extra points, 15 out of 16 on field goal attempts. That's because Carolina's not going to pay Eddie Pinheiro for his mediocrity. They're just not. They're not going to pay him. And then neither should they. Getting half of the Eagles' defensive line would be crazy. I would love it. Please do. For you, tabletop laboratories, I'm sure you would love that due to the fact of being a Commanders fan. Do you think quarterback's a problem? Omar, I do not think Bryce Young is a problem. He's not. Milton Williams, Carolina Panthers sign. I hope so. Omar's speaking, and I think what Omar's been doing is speaking it into the future. That's why he keeps saying that we're going to sign. I think he's like speaking it into existence for the Carolina Panthers. That's what Omar's doing. He's speaking it into existence. He's bringing the positive vibes, the positive affirmations to the Ropp Star Report with saying we're going to sign these guys. And I love it. At least that's what I'm thinking. I don't know. He might be trolling. I don't know. But we'll go with the positive side. Thanks. I haven't had time. So that's what I know about him, Josh. That's what I know about him. Those are all the trade rumors that have been going around, ladies and gentlemen. There have been some crazy trade rumors out there, like us going after Justin Simmons, or Justin Simmons is not we wouldn't have to trade him. He's just a free agent. I've heard some that we might be targeting Justin Simmons in free agency. I've even heard a crazy one where Carolina Panthers, where we might try to trade for Kyle Pitts. I've heard a trade rumor about that. But the Carolina Panthers aren't trading for Kyle Pitts. We know that, okay? Let's stop pretending they will. There's definitely been a rumor. I've seen a rumor out there about that. Trading for Kyle Pitts just doesn't make sense. There's definitely a lot of free agents out there. Obviously, T. Higgins is I think one of the biggest ones that everybody continues to talk about. So, well, guys, I'm going to hop off of here. I have been on YouTube since 7 o'clock at night between the NFC South Roundtable and now my own channel. We've been on here for over an hour. Again, I appreciate everyone joining the live stream. That's all the trade rumors. We'll talk more about free agency. Free agency starts on March 12th. So remember, March 12th is the start of free agency. So go ahead and mark your calendars on that because that's the start of the free agency market. So again, appreciate everyone joining the live stream. Do me a favor, make sure you pound that like button, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you click that post notifications bell so you don't miss out on any new content. You're always notified when I'm live or I post up on the community or I post up a short, whatever the case may be. Also, follow me on all my social media. You can see it right there down below, Roppstar92_. That's Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. You can also follow me on Facebook, the Ropp Star Report. That's also one way you could do it. Help support the channel. And also, shout out to BetUS, our sponsorship of the Ropp Star Report. Sign up for free today. Get 125% bonus on your first bet, but bet responsibly. That link is in the link tree of this live stream and in my bio. So go check that out. As always, guys, love you guys. Appreciate everyone joining again. Have fun. Be safe. Keep pounding. I'm out. Peace.